Hey everybody, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2020 Chevy Equinox, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver. But before we do that, why don't we just take a minute and check this out and make sure it'll be the right hitch for you. The Equinox, super popular SUVs. You see a lot of them out on the road, and people do a lot of stuff with them. Whether you're trying to pull your trailer around or use bike racks or cargo carriers, whatever the case may be, having a hitch back here is gonna let you do those types of things. And honestly, this hitch, I think it looks really good too. In terms of the appearance, it's probably my favorite, to be honest with you. And that's because it is, for the most part, completely hidden. And the majority of the hitches for the Equinox are very similar in terms of looks, but I think what separates this one from some of the others is the finish. And it's not a huge deal, but I like it. It's a matte black, and it matches the bumper plastic almost spot on, believe it or not. And so to me, it just looks more like a factory type option. With this being a class 3 hitch, it is going to have the 2" by 2" receiver tube opening, and super common. Ton of different things will work with it. Reinforced collar at the end for extra strength. It is going to use a standard 5/8 pin and clip, and the safety chain openings are going to be easy to get to and provide us with enough space to use just about any size hook that our trailer might have on it. Now I'm going to give you a couple of measurements, and you can use these to help figure out which hitch mounted accessories will work best. From the ground to the top inside edge of the receiver tube opening, that's going to be about 11.5 inches. So if you plan on pulling a trailer, chances are pretty good you're going to need a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. For the majority of you, probably somewhere in that 4" range should do the trick. From the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of the rear bumper, that's going to be about 6 inches. And you can use that measurement to help figure out that if any folding type accessories you might have can be stored in that upright position without hitting the back of your Equinox. But other than that, at the end of the day, honestly, in my opinion, this is probably your best bet in terms of looks and functionality. As far as getting the hitch installed, really not too bad. Lower the exhaust down a little bit and enlarge one hole just a little, just enough to be able to get your hardware in there. And other than that, it just kind of bolts up, so not really a huge deal. I'm trying to take up a ton of your time. Speaking of that though, why don't we go ahead and put the hitch on together now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here at the back of our Equinox, and first thing we're going to do is loosen up our rear fascia. So on each side we're going to have a screw, and I'm going to remove them using a T15 Torx bit. Now what we need to do is lower our exhaust some to give us some extra space to work. So what I like to do is take a strap and just run it from side to side. That way we can kind of control how fast and how far we actually let the exhaust come down. So now if you go to the very end of your car and behind the bumper, we can see these exhaust hanger brackets, and there's going to be 2 bolts that run through this way that are holding the brackets on, and we're going to pull those out. I want to mention too, from this point on, anything we do to one side of our vehicle, we're also going to do to the other side because it's set up the same way. But these are going to be a 15mm head. So we'll back them out. You can take the plastic bracket and just kind of pull that down like so. And if you follow the exhaust towards the front of our car, we're going to have one more exhaust hanger here. This one's rubber. You can spray it down with some soapy water, some type of lubricant. Then just take a pry bar, and you're going to pry one end of it off. And then we'll loosen up our strap some. And then when we do that, we can actually get the exhaust down. So if you pull on your bumper, you can kind of work this out. And then that'll give us more than enough room to get up by our frame rails and get everything ready to get the hitch out. Now we're able to start to get our hardware in the frame. The only issue is the spacer block and the carriage bolt that needs to go inside is just a little bit too big to actually fit. So if you look here, we have this access hole and it's just a little too small for those to go in. So we're gonna enlarge that hole a little bit. I'm just gonna use a die grinder bit like this to speed things up, but it's so little material. You know, if all you have is a hand file, it's not gonna take you too terribly long. So we'll go ahead and make this just big enough. That way we can get our hardware in there. Spacer block will fit, and the carriage bolt will as well. And so while we're right here, we'll just go ahead and start to get it done. So we're gonna have 3 attachment points. This hole, this one, and this one. You wanna start with the one closest to the back of the vehicle. Just kind of a pointer. If you take your pull wire and kind of hold it up, put a bend in it. A lot of times it makes it easier to get it to drop out of our access hole there. So you take the coiled end, put it through there, and run it towards the front of our car. We're trying to get it to come out through here. Sometimes you might have to reach up there and help pull it out. Be careful too, if, you know, obviously filing that down, you might have some sharp metal, so don't cut your finger. But you're gonna take the spacer block and the carriage bolt and thread that on to the pull wire and feed it up. And drop it down. And I'm gonna do that same exact thing and use the same exact hardware for our 2 remaining holes there. Once your hardware's in there, and we're not going to be using the access hole anymore, not a bad idea to shoot some spray paint up there. I just hit it with some clear, just to get a layer of protection on that bare metal that we exposed from fouling out that hole. So give that a few minutes to dry, and then we can get the hitch up. Now with an extra set of hands, we can take our hitch and get it into position. So you'll kind of go up and over our exhaust and get it in the general area there. And then take your pull wires and drop them through the holes in the hitch. Once we get all 3 of them through there, we can lift up on it and get it lined up. While you're holding it in position, you can remove one of the pull wires. Take a flange nut, and we're gonna get at least 1 started on each side, hand tight. That way the hitch will support itself while we work on the rest of them. So go ahead, get the rest of our pull wires off. Their flange nuts started. One thing you can do, if you put some side pressure on the bolt while you're starting the nut, makes it a lot easier, just kind of keeps it from moving around and wanting to push up on you. And once all the hardware is in place and hand tight, you can come back with a 19mm or a 3/4 inch socket and snug it down. Now we can come back with a torque wrench and tighten down all of our hardware to the amount specified in our instructions. At this point, we can rehang our exhaust. I like to do this one here first. Just makes it easier to kind of get the back ones going, but this is enough to support the exhaust for the time being. So while I'm right here, I'll go ahead and get our strap removed as well. We'll move back here now and get everything in place. I like to do these one at a time. Get them started hand tight, that way we know they're lined up before we come back and completely tighten them down. And last but not least, I went ahead and put our torque spit screws back in the bottom of our bumper. And with that done, that will finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver on our 2020 Chevrolet Equinox.